I'm Lizette Jones, and I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes or so asking you as marketers to help save our small brands. Hopefully, I'll convince you of the danger that they're in, what that means for us, and how we can help them. So for me, small brands are represented by this guy here, Mario. My 6-year-old son is completely obsessed with Mario, and he asked me recently, why is it that when I reach the boss level and I have to face Bowser, Mario's arch nemesis on the right here, he is always so much bigger than me and he's got loads of defenses and weapons, which means that it's really hard to beat him. And I was like, well, let this be a life lesson for you. Life's not fair, so suck it up. And also, what a great analogy for my talk. Oh, is the mic on? All right, I'll speak louder. Not really, but it is a great analogy for my talk, because if you can imagine, if small brands are represented by Mario and big brands are represented by Bowser, on the face of it, when pitted against each other, big brands have a wealth of resources and economies of scale they can benefit from. So Mario's kind of stuck, which is why I believe in breaking small brands out of the chokehold that big brands have over them. And it's not just me making this up. Some really clever people who've been published by Harvard Business Review have been studying the gap between small brands and big brands since the 80s. And that gap has been increasing over time, and now it's 7 times bigger than it was compared to the 80s, and only getting bigger and bigger as the years go by. They've called this the small size trap. So it means that the big are getting bigger and the small are staying small. So why should we care? Well, stuff like this happens. We're vulnerable to big brands exploiting our data to influence political campaigns, or most recently, just leaking it online, letting it be leaked so everyone can see it and steal it. We're vulnerable to big brands abusing workers' rights to fair pay and fair working conditions, as Boohoo have done in recent years. And finally, we're vulnerable to the whims of a megalomaniac, most recent nutcase in point. So, the small brand trap is also reinforced by the performance plateau, which is an idea founded by Tom Roach and Dr. Grace Kite, where essentially small brands, when they start out, they've got aggressive growth targets to meet. So they rely on digital performance media in order to meet those targets. So they're there collecting all of the in-market people, and then they've reached a point where they get stuck on the performance plateau, which means that there are no new people to bring into the brand because they haven't been immediately available. So in order to get off the plateau, small brands have to invest in brand building activity, which, if you've ever worked at a small brand, is actually quite hard to convince people to do if everyone's been used to a certain way of working. So then let's say that you then convince the powers that be that you need to invest in brand building activity. You might go and do some TV. Tried and tested brand building channel. Sad to say, we're in an era of long-term TV pricing inflation, meaning that as eyeballs move away from linear TV and onto other screens, it means the cornerstone programming, that appointment to view programming that big brands have built their brands on, are becoming increasingly scarce, meaning that they're increasingly expensive. So the likes of live sport, I'm a Celebrity, it means that only the brands with the deepest pockets can afford those kinds of moments. All sounds a bit shit, doesn't it? Sorry. but I have hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And I believe it rests on this, what I'm calling fragmented fame. Now, this is actually different to what Alex has just talked to you about. So we haven't heard each other's talk, so this is really interesting that I've got a different take to Alex. I'm going to explain what this is in a minute. It is predicated on this, everyone's favourite double act. The value of fame is twofold. So it broadens reach for a brand and also creates a sense of popularity and talkability and advocacy. Now, before I fully explain what fragmented fame is, I'm going to have to ask you to do some audience participation. So please, can everybody stand up? Thank you. Okay, so please stay standing if you know who this is. That's great. Okay, so the majority of people. Okay, please can you stand back up again? Please stand up, stay standing if you know who this is. Ah, great. Okay, so those of you still standing, you can feel really smug that you've got your finger on the pulse. So this is Mr. Beast of global YouTube fame. He has 113 million YouTube subscribers, and he earned $54 million last year, which happens to be the same as Lewis Hamilton, who was the guy on the previous chart. So I believe that we are moving away from an era of mass fame in the traditional sense. And we're moving towards an era of what I'm calling fragmented fame. So people and brands famous within certain narrower but deeper pockets of people. And of course, it's been heavily facilitated by social media. There's no denying that. And YouTube, sorry, I am including YouTube in that. But the nature of social media is also changing. We're now in an era of what some people are calling recommendation media, i.e. the algorithms from platforms are becoming more like TikTok, optimizing us away from our friends' content and towards content that it thinks that will be interested or is tailored to our tastes. So for me, that means that that's just burrowing us deeper and keeping us deeper into these separate pots of our tastes and our interests. So that means that the light at the end of the tunnel is that we need to think about how small brands can start to aim for fragmented fame. I've got 3 examples coming up, and then I'm going to talk about what we can learn from them. So these guys, they are one of the largest global esports brand that possibly many of you may not have heard of. They started off as 3 guys, gamers on YouTube, making videos, and then now, most recently, they've become NASDAQ listed and have got a $725 million valuation. And they did that through essentially creating entertaining content that they knew their audience liked, and they also had a really agile approach to doing that. Second brand are globally renowned K-pop boy band BTS. They, again, started off facilitated by YouTube, and now they've got, it's nuts to me, they've got 40 million fans around the world who essentially act like a paid workforce for them, doing tasks like translating the song lyrics from Korean into all the languages in the world in order to spread, because they want to spread the reach for BTS and want to make them even bigger than they are already. Insane. And their content revenue recently surpassed that of Coldplay and Harry Styles. Yet, possibly not many of us have heard of them before. And finally, Gymshark, the fitness apparel and lifestyle brand, started by Ben Francis in 2012 in his garage, and now is valued at over £1 billion. He, again, knew his audience deeply and knew what content would keep them coming back to him. And he also didn't think of his brand to be a static entity. He thought about how it could flow between different interests and categories that his audience were interested in. So back to my original provocation. I believe that we can help brands break out the chokehold by aiming for fragmented fame. And back to Mario. I believe he's got characteristics that those brands exhibited. And they are mindset, agility, and talent. I'll go through each one in turn. We agree on this one. So I back this quote so much. The fact that there is no difference between content and advertising, and that's exactly what those brands thought. They created content that was designed to entertain, entertain, and entertain. And I think as small brands, they need to do that. Add agility. So FaZe Clan have not thought of their brand to be just an esports brand. They're also a sportswear brand, a sneaker brand. Most recent signing, he's now part of FaZe Clan, he's called FaZe Snoop or something like that. Hip hop and entertainment talent brand. So it's that kind of agility and oozing through adjacent interests that small brands need to think about. And finally, this. So recruiting talent which possibly could come from a decentralized workforce of content creators and giving them autonomy over the brand, a lot of autonomy over the brand, as well as recruiting those from a PR background or a PR mindset to think about how to create hype for a brand. This is most recent and in the news. Show of hands, does anyone know who knows what this is? Yes, great, thank you. So, very quickly, energy drink created by YouTube sensations KSI and Logan Paul have created so much hype for this that they have young people and their mums and dads queuing from 5 a.m. around the blocks waiting for Asda to open to get the opportunity to buy some of this stuff. It's nuts. So, if you only remember one thing from my talk, is this. I asked you to help save our small brands, break the chokehold that the big brands have over them, and aim for fragmented fame. Otherwise, it will be game over.